On August 12, 1985, what began as a routine domestic flight in Japan turned into one of the deadliest aviation disasters in history. Japan Airlines Flight 123, a Boeing 747SR, was scheduled to fly from Tokyo's Haneda Airport to Osaka. It was a short flight, just over an hour long. On board were 524 people, families returning home after the holiday, business travelers and vacationers. Among them were children, mothers, fathers, people with dreams, lives and stories. At 6:12 p.m. the aircraft took off. Everything seemed normal. The weather was clear and the passengers were relaxed. But just 12 minutes after takeoff at 6:24 p.m., disaster struck. A loud explosion rocked the plane. Unknown to the passengers, the rear pressure bulkhead, an essential part of the aircraft structure, had failed. The tail of the aircraft tore open, causing explosive decompression. The noise was deafening. Oxygen masks dropped. The aircraft violently shook. And worst of all four of the plane's hydraulic systems, the controls that allow the pilot to steer, were destroyed. The crew suddenly found themselves piloting an uncontrollable aircraft, with no way to steer, climb, or descend. Most planes would crash within minutes under such conditions. But somehow the pilots managed to keep the aircraft in the air, for 32 agonizing minutes. Inside the cockpit, Captain Masami Takahama and his crew fought desperately to control the aircraft using only engine power. With no rudder or ailerons, they used thrust from the engines to make slow turns, trying to return to Haneda or reach a nearby airbase. But the aircraft continued to drift toward the mountains of Gunma Prefecture. In the cabin, panic turned into horror. Some passengers wept. Others prayed. Several began writing farewell letters to their loved ones. One man wrote to his family, "Please take care of the children. I love you." A young girl scribbled a note to her mother. These letters were later found among the wreckage. At 6:56 p.m., after 32 minutes of desperate struggle, Flight 123 crashed into Mount Takamagahara. The force of the impact split the aircraft into pieces. Fire engulfed the wreckage. In total, 520 people perished. Only 4 survived, all women seated near the rear of the plane. The crash site was remote, hidden deep in the mountains. Rescue operations were delayed due to poor coordination and darkness. It was later revealed that some passengers may have survived the initial crash, only to die waiting for help that came too late. The investigation that followed revealed a horrifying truth. 7 years earlier, the same aircraft had suffered a tailstrike incident. Boeing, the manufacturer, had repaired the pressure bulkhead, but the repair was flawed. Instead of using 2 rows of rivets as required, only one was used. That single mistake slowly weakened the structure over the years, until it finally gave way on that tragic day. The crash of Japan Airlines Flight 123 remains the deadliest single aircraft accident in aviation history. But this was more than a mechanical failure. It was a story of neglect, bravery, and heartbreak. The pilots fought till the very end. The passengers faced death with courage. And the nation of Japan mourned deeply for the lives lost. To this day, every August 12th, families climb the mountain to lay flowers at the crash site. They read the last letters written by their loved ones, and the wind still carries the memory of the cries that once echoed through the sky. Flight 123 reminds us how fragile life can be, and how even a small mistake can change the fate of hundreds. If this story touched your heart, honor the memory of those we lost by liking, sharing, and subscribing to Skyline Tragedies, where we remember the forgotten, one story at a time.